Good afternoon, and welcome to today's Adweek webinar. We'll be helping you find your brand's consumer tribe and sharing ways, once you know them, and you know your loyal fans, to personalize, engage, promote, and verify. And today's webinar is being sponsored by SheerID. I'm Stuart File, head of Adweek's Branded Content Studio, and I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. Before we begin, I'm just going to take a few minutes here and make sure that everyone is familiar with the features of our webinar platform and also knows what to expect from our event today. And before we do that, I just want to take a brief moment and thank everyone for joining us. We are all living a little bit in the upside down these days, and I know, and I'm at least happy, that our webinars have been a valuable resource for a lot of people in marketing. And so we're very glad that you're joining us again today. And while you may be alone at home doing this, I want to let you know that you're really actually part of an audience that is measuring in the hundreds right now. And so you may seem like you're alone, but you're really part of a good-sized audience with plenty of people sitting around near you. Our actual presentation today should go somewhere in the 35-minute range. Afterwards, we're going to have plenty of time for audience Q&A. So if at any point, if you have a question for our speakers today, just simply use the question tool that you see there on the left side of your screen, and we're going to get to as many audience questions as we can following our live presentation. It's not too late, by the way, to invite your colleagues to join us today, and we'd really love it if they would. About 15 minutes ago, we sent everyone a final reminder email. In there's a link to the registration page, so grab that, send that email or that link over to your colleagues. They still have enough time to come in, register, and join us live. But if they can't make it live, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand. And we're going to send everyone a link to that recording later this afternoon. So check your email about 3:30 Eastern time today. Couple other things I just want to cover here. First off, if you are interested in getting a copy of today's slides, you can find them right now in the Event Resources tab up at the top of your screen. Excuse me. So go on in there and feel free to download a PDF of the deck, and you can certainly share that with your colleagues as well. Finally, I just want to invite everyone to please check out the Adweek webinar calendar, www.adweek.com/webinars. We've got a full schedule of webinars over the coming weeks. This is one of 5 that we're going to have this week. I think we've got another 4 or 5 next week, and even the week after that, with 4th of July, we've got a couple scheduled. So lots of different topics to check out, many dealing with the current environment and what brands and agencies can be doing in the current pandemic, and certainly a lot of others just on the challenges that people often face in brand marketing today. So check out the calendar, sign up for an upcoming webinar. You'll also get access to our full archive of on-demand webinars there. And that's every webinar we've done over the past 12 months. So again, adweek.com/webinars, check it all out. So let's move on to today's webinar, and let me just take a second here and introduce our speakers. First off, from our sponsor, SheerID, we have Sai Coppola. Sai is the Chief Marketing Officer over at SheerID, and as you would assume, he oversees all marketing. He has extensive marketing experience and led marketing and product teams at global software companies like Google and SAP, as well as some startups like Proximity, which is now part of Apple, and Apogee, which was acquired by Google. Our guest speaker today is Matt Gehring. Matt's the VP of Growth Marketing over at Rothy's, and I'm sure many of you know Rothy's and their shoes. They are sort of one of the leading direct-to-consumer brands out there, and they really take a really unique approach to footwear, and I know that Matt will be sharing some of that stuff. And of course, Matt leads their growth marketing efforts, He also serves as an advisor and mentor at a number of other companies, including Next Cubed and Beanbox. He's also a former growth advisor at HIMS, Vita and Company, and Innova Culinary. So he certainly knows a lot of things on what's going on in this market, and we're very, very happy to have him today. So again, Sai and Matt, I want to welcome you both. And Sai, let me pass this on over to you to begin our webinar today.
Thank you, Stuart, for the introduction. Good morning, folks. In my role at SheerID, I've had the privilege to work with a variety of marketing teams from innovative brands like Nike, Spotify, and Rothy's on customer acquisition programs. I'm looking forward to hearing from Matt about the Rothy's brand story and how they think about consumer tribes and acquisition. Before we get to Matt, I would like to set some context, take a couple of minutes to set some context on what we are seeing in the marketplace and also look at some of the marketer survey results that Forrester recently ran. This is not a surprise, right? The consumer is preoccupied. It's difficult to get that attention as they're focused on basic needs like staying safe and being employed. One of those challenges we're seeing from a brand perspective is there's disruption in the retail channel for brands, whether it is in many states, stores are still closed. We're seeing some bankruptcies, whether it's Neiman Marcus or JCPenney. So we're definitely seeing more push to direct-to-consumer commerce. Now, in an online world, the knee-jerk reaction is to offer mass discounts to move merchandise. But we all know, premium brands are really wary of doing that, as it dilutes your brand and also it sets the customer expectations that will be difficult to change post-crisis. We also have seen in a recent consumer survey we did, 89% of people want brands to support the social causes, or in this case, health workers and affected populations in this pandemic. What surprised me was they trust premium brands more than other institutions than like the government to do the right thing. So given this context, we're seeing brands going more direct to consumer, aligning some of their customer acquisition efforts with their corporate social responsibility initiatives. There was a recent marketer survey that Forrester ran with Fortune 2000 marketers around personalization. There are no surprises here, but it'll be good to just have this in the context while we listen to Matt talk about Rothy's. Look, it's not a surprise. Vast majority of the marketers, personalization is still a top goal. That's one way for the brand to differentiate itself. Yet, there are many challenges still brands face, the marketers face, around data. Data accuracy or privacy concerns, and privacy is becoming increasingly an issue with the California Privacy Act. We are more and more relying on first-party data now. So we are also seeing a vast majority of marketers using identity attributes like a life stage or an affiliation or professional status in marketing to consumers. We are seeing increasingly marketers focusing on consumer tribes as a powerful mechanism to acquire rather than just pure demographic segmentation. We will talk more about what the distinctions between the two are. So it is not a surprise where increasingly we're seeing brands using a personalization technique called identity marketing to acquire customers. This is an approach where the brand creates a gated offer specific for a consumer tribe, like whether it's teachers or first responders or medical workers or military. And in this consumer tribe, the members of the tribe strongly identify themselves as being part of the tribe, which essentially creates that word of mouth effect in that community for a really compelling offer. With that, I want to invite Matt over to talk about what Rothy's has been doing, starting with the brand and how it got started, and the types of consumer tribes they have been focused on. With that, let me invite Matt.
All right, thanks, Sai. Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. I'm Matt Gehring, our SVP of Growth at Rothy's, and what my team really focuses on is around kind of really understanding our customer and then using those insights to drive our user acquisition, our retention, and kind of all the data and analytics that power our team as well as the other groups within the brand. In case you're not familiar with Rothy's and our shoes, we really focus on creating sustainable style staples for life on the go. It started with our shoes and then most recently expanded into bags. And as we think about the brand and kind of how we were founded, like at our core, we really take this whole brand approach to sustainability. We use eco-friendly materials, zero waste production, our offices, how we get the product to the customer. We really consider the planet every step of the way. And to dive in a little deeper into Rothy's and our approach to sustainability, our 3D knitting process leaves close to zero waste behind in our production. Typically in the shoe space, maybe 30-35% of the material that is used is thrown away. For us, it's in the low single digits. We own our manufacturing and make to demand, adapting to kind of what our customers loving. We use sustainable packaging. It saves cardboard waste. We don't ship box in box. That same package can be used that it's shipped in for any returns, exchanges, all without needing any additional adhesives. Additionally, like overall, our commitment to sustainability spans the entire product journey. And that's really fostered an incredibly loyal customer base of well over 1 million customers. Now, Rothy's, as I kind of mentioned, began as a footwear brand with just 2 silhouettes. We had our flat, our point. These quickly skyrocketed in popularity, really loved for their style, their comfort, but also the machine washability. As word of mouth sort of recommendation has really fueled the brand, we have been expanding our styles, and now we have over 10 silhouettes. Also, in early March, just before COVID kind of flipped the world upside down, we launched our very first bag collection made from recycled ocean plastics. This new category really helped us surprise and delight our base while also expanding our potential customer base. To drill down on that kind of customer demographic and who the Rothy's woman is, she's educated, urban, spends her days on her feet. She loves style and comfort with sustainability as an added bonus. We've leveraged identity marketing really across multiple fronts to connect with her and kind of bring her into our community. We also found that she began to form a community of her own. We found that word of mouth about great product helps fuel our brand, and 50% of our orders are coming in via word of mouth from her sharing. There's sort of this wink and nod when you spot Rothy's on the street. Women who love Rothy's were telling others, their friends, their family members, their coworkers, and no one really tries to keep the secret. Our consumers really love this sharing with each other, especially love talking about some of the elements like our washability and sustainability. And as we connect with her, they're connecting with one another and forming tribes. We've seen countless Facebook groups and forums pop up. You see ones dedicated to foot size, buy, sell, trade, even hard to find Rothy's styles, and more. Women were organizing meetups in person all over the country, gathering to catch up on their own, as well as discuss new things going on with Rothy's, new styles, new colors. And often we found they were falling naturally into their own tribes, teachers, nurses, other demographics. This really increased our ability to use identity marketing to build up our base. We had all this context heading into March, when the world sort of came to a halt due to COVID-19. So shortly after the pandemic hit, we knew we had to pivot. We own our factory and have incredible technology. We knew we could make a difference. But before jumping in, we really wanted to engage with our community in the process. We surveyed our followers on Instagram and Facebook, asking how best can we tackle COVID-19 relief. We quickly received over 1,500 responses, many coming from healthcare professionals, nurses, doctors, with suggestions on what we could do. And no surprise, the top answer was masks. We quickly developed durable, washable face masks that will be launching soon on our site. We also donated 100,000 masks to healthcare workers and engaged our community in a fundraising effort for direct relief. But we knew we could do more. About a year and a half ago, we started our partnership with SheerID to introduce a discount for teachers. SheerID helped us identify and kind of verify educators, marketing a special discount and shop page dedicated to them. We found that this program has really helped our base drive new customers and earn loyal shoppers that keep coming back again and again. Now, targeting a group like teachers also helps fuel word of mouth, as they would wear and talk about Rothy's at school and online. Looking deeper at our customers, we also saw this opportunity to kind of help out and expand the program. So in addition to donating masks and the funds to the frontline workers, we also wanted to help medical professionals and first responders combating COVID-19. We knew from social listening and identity marketing that nurses, doctors, healthcare workers love Rothy's. They're polished enough for work, they're comfortable for long days on your feet, and machine washable, which during this time has never been more relevant. We also knew that there was potential for building and tapping into a lifetime kind of loyal base with this group. When we looked at the success we saw with our teacher discount program with SheerID, we decided to extend our offer to this discount offer to first responders and medical professionals like doctors, nurses, medical staff. So, Rothy's is a premium brand. We own our factory. We never overproduce. There really isn't usually a need to discount excess inventory because of how we naturally operate. And other than our teacher discount, we had never discounted our product. While many other brands, as we are looking at, were offering sort of Black Friday level discounts to kind of anyone and everyone, we wanted to kind of take a more thoughtful approach with discounting in order to not dilute the brand. Ultimately, we decided to extend this program that we have for teachers to the doctors, nurses, medical staff. And given the sort of greater need for that group, we also were able to work with SheerID to do a one-time 50% off discount code to that member base. SheerID really helped us clearly define the parameters we needed to set around the program, ensure we're hitting the right groups and maintaining the kind of right boundaries for the offer. We set up a special landing page for them to shop, including for a limited time some of Rothy's bestsellers like our Black Point and Black Flat. Overall, saw a huge boost running the program. We drove short-term revenue and gained a new loyal customer base. And while it's still early, we do believe this action really helps cultivate a new tribe that will help us kind of grow and expand our community. And thanks, Syed. Back to you.
Thanks, Matt. It is really fascinating. By the way, my wife is a big Rothy's fan. I'm looking forward to day when actually you guys will do something for men too. But anyway, moving to in terms of what we are seeing, let me move to this next slide here. We have been fortunate to work with 200 plus brands, and having launched and optimized identity marketing campaigns with companies like Rothy's, there's a playbook that's coming about which seems to work well. The first step of it is, identifying for your specific brand what is that consumer tribe that's most relevant based on demographics and things like that, right? For example, if your demographics, target demographic is women between 30 and 45, we've seen brand partners think about nurses, teachers, military spouses. And then the idea then is to create essentially a set of mini Black Fridays which don't dilute your brand. Whether it is a Nurses Appreciation Week or Teacher Appreciation Week or Back to School or Veterans Day, right? The second piece is, determining the exclusive offer. Now, this doesn't have to be a discount alone. We have seen some brands do things like early access or exclusive products just for that consumer tribe, or incentives on top to motivate a larger purchase. So the key part of the offer, it has to be really compelling, and exclusive is also key, because exclusive is what, when people feel is just for them, we have seen much better conversion rates, and it's not seen as just paying lip service. The third piece of it is push the offer through all the channels that you currently use. There's some brands have a fallacy that, hey, I'm going after military, there must be one or two places where I can reach them. The reality is a lot of these consumer tribes are large segments of population. For example, military is 30 million plus when you include veterans, retirees, military spouses, and active duty. So they are where all consumers are. So what we've seen work best is you use all the channels that you currently use, and the key is the offer is compelling enough. And what we've seen is when the offer is really compelling, pushing just through organic channels, the offer goes viral. The reason it goes viral is these communities are socially tight-knit. When the offer is compelling from a premium brand, a good brand, the word of mouth effect is big in this space. Now, one of the things with this, when the offer is compelling, is it invites discount abuse. So what we have seen is when you have a verification step in play completely in your brand experience on your site or in the app, we have seen it gives power to the marketer now to target really specific demographics, specific consumer tribes with an offer to acquire without cannibalizing rest of their revenues. Now, beyond that one sale, the brand now has data about the consumer. The beauty of this approach is there's an explicit consent between the consumer and the brand. The consumer is giving information about themselves, like date of birth, email, depending on the type of consumer tribe, it could be the status, professional status, in exchange for the offer. And that enables now the brand to engage with the consumer on an ongoing basis in a much more richer fashion. Now, the reason, means I kind of alluded to these things, the reason some of these campaigns work is, number one is word of mouth. What we have seen is that the offer is compelling and it resonates with an audience. It creates an emotional connection, and the members in that tribe actually gain social recognition by sharing. So we've seen word of mouth being big on really compelling offers. The second is the protected offer. The fencing of the offer enables the marketer the ability to give a truly exclusive offer to that community without worrying about cannibalizing the rest of the revenues. And last but not the least, as I mentioned, it creates brand trust. This is an important piece as we go forward in this privacy era. As we see more and more regulations on privacy, we will lose the power of the cookie. And more brands will have to rely on first-party data. So a technique like identity marketing helps you gather information of the consumer directly from them in exchange for an offer. It increases the brand trust and increases the engagement. Now, before jumping into different consumer types, I just want to take a moment to talk about what we are seeing in the last couple of months around the tribe of medical professionals. These folks are tightly knit around hospital systems. What most of us weren't aware of, this is a big population of 16 million people when you include nurses, doctors, first responders, EMT professionals, and healthcare workers. And we have seen the median income for nurses is close to $110,000. Doctors, of course, is $290,000, and other medical professionals like respiratory therapists is around $70,000. So they have disposable income. And second, while most sectors in the economy have been hit, adversely impacted, and have seen unemployment rates go up, this is one sector was still relatively pretty strong. 90% of them have still have full employment in this sector. So this gives an opportunity for brands to, a great way to support social cause, supporting the affected populations of frontline workers, to drive short-term revenue, and also create a halo effect for the brand. Doing the right thing is also good for business. Now, beyond this particular consumer tribe, there are other sets of consumer tribes. So as a brand, you have to determine what's a relevant tribe for your brand, whether it is teachers or military or first responders, students and seniors and employees. Now, the population, these are all U.S. population sizes. Now, this is relevant even outside the U.S., but I'm just focused currently on the U.S. Segments. One other thing which is a key factor to consider is when you're launching an identity marketing program, we have found when it is completely embedded in your brand experience, the verification piece of it, and you have complete access to the data, it can have really compelling impact. Let me use the example of Lowe's to talk about the implications. So in the case of Lowe's, like in general in home improvement business, after the general contractors, the do-it-yourselfer is the next best segment. They tend to be 30s and 40s, male and resourceful. Now, for Lowe's, it aligns very well with the military segment. Given the history of Lowe's with their association with veterans and veteran initiatives, they wanted to align more strongly with their brand. So what they did was, in the case of Lowe's, when you sign up for My Lowe's account, which is the loyalty program, Lowe's asks if you're part of the military community. The verification process is embedded in their brand experience for the least amount of friction and higher conversion rates. Now that status is now connected to the loyalty program. So when I, as a consumer, go into Lowe's store or online, I automatically get a 10% discount. But more importantly, because now Lowe's has this data they have collected as part of this program, whether it includes the military status as well as date of birth, they are now able to further nurture and engage their customers on a monthly basis. So they're on a monthly promotions just for their military customers, and they have seen 2 to 3x engagement or compared to the next best program, a 2x increase in transaction store visits, and also 20% increase in transaction value. So when you think about consumer tribe, figure out what is the right consumer tribe or tribes for your brand. And once, it's not just a one-time activity, once you get the first acquisition, but then the question is, how do you engage with an ongoing basis? Finally, we at SheerID have been fortunate to work with 200 plus leading brands on our identity marketing programs. We would love for you to join us and partner with you and provide you with the best practices, benchmarking, and consulting on what it takes to have a compelling identity marketing program that serves your business needs. Given the current COVID crisis, we are doing our part. We are actually giving away our services for free to brands to reach some of these everyday heroes. Drop me a note, or you can connect me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect you to the right people at SheerID to discuss further. With that, Stuart, would love to get into Q&A and hear more from Matt on what's happening at Rothy's.
Great. Well, thank you, Sai, and thank you, Matt, for sharing your insights, helping people really understand how this marketing process and this identifying and then serving your consumer tribes really works. We're going to move into some questions from the audience in just a second here. So I do want to invite everyone, if you do have a question for our speakers, and we have a number of them queued up, just use the question tool that you see there on the left side of your screen, and we're going to get to as many as we can over the next 10, maybe 15 minutes or so. So please ask your questions. Even if we don't get to your question, I always do make sure they get forwarded over to our sponsor. So there's always the opportunity for an offline response as well. Just some quick reminders here before we get to questions. First off, if you do want a copy of the slide deck today, and I know that there was a lot of information that got shared there on some of these studies and things like that, you can download the slides right now from the Event Resources tab at the top of the screen. So go on in there, you can grab a PDF of today's slide deck, and certainly feel free to share that with your colleagues. Also, today's webinar has been recorded and will be available on demand. So we're going to send you a link to that on-demand version later this afternoon. So check your email about 3:30 Eastern time. You can grab that recording, and certainly, again, feel free to share that with your colleagues or have them come on in and register. We'll send them the link directly. So let's move into some of these questions that are coming in at a nice clip here, gentlemen. And, let's talk a little bit. Certainly the key to a lot of this has been word of mouth. And as that goes on. So, Matt, let's just sort of start with you. Can you talk a little bit about, again, you explained sort of your goal when identifying, a tribe like teachers, just because, they're in an environment, they socialize with other teachers, they talk a lot, and they look at things like shoes, right? Or you want to be comfortable in the classroom. So when you know that word of mouth is going on, what do you do to sort of capitalize it and really sort of extend it?
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. So, and I saw there was another question around sort of word of mouth as well, and it sort of how it was created. And there was really just more of a natural effect that created it. I wish I could say like, oh, here's my playbook of the 4 things that we did to create word of mouth, but it really started with the product and the attributes around sustainability. It's made from plastic recycled water bottles. That's something to talk about. It's machine washable, which you don't think about with shoes. The comfort, and so like all of these things together created something where it was sort of I think one of our first pieces of press that we got was from Vogue, calling it the It Shoe, and that just sort of started it. So it was more something that we discovered that was naturally happening through social listening, through consumer insights, talking to our customer. The thing I would say that helped maybe capitalize on it and helped it build was, as a brand that for the most part, and at least when we started, does not discount, we initiated a referral program, so kind of a give 20, get 20 program. And that was one of the things that we found helped fuel sort of incentive for our customer, who she just wants to share something great that she discovered that she wants her friends to have. And that coupled with the discount of, hey, here's this product, I absolutely love it, you'll love it too. By the way, use this code, you'll get $20 off, I'll get $20, come back. And that's something that we've seen kind of help with sort of the overall sharing.
Mm-hmm. So Matt, when you're doing and you're sort of encouraging this word of mouth, how does your word of mouth strategy maybe differ from, as people are now always talking about influencer marketing, right? Which is a means of sort of, getting the right people talking about things. Do you look at this again? Is influencer more sort of top-down influencer down to networks, whereas your word of mouth campaign is a little more peer-to-peer? Or do you differentiate those and do you use them together?
Everything as we kind of think through growth, our efforts is interconnected. There's all these different sort of loops in a way that we're creating. And so you've got the woman who has a pair who's all of a sudden, one coworker has it, then her whole department has it, then their whole floor, then their whole company. Like those things happen kind of on the bottom piece, and we can use things like influencer or organic social, even paid social, to help sort of start the conversation, to identify places where maybe we don't have as much penetration, and use things like influencers to help sort of introduce, to help support that story her friend is saying. And so, we saw it even, it's getting close to 3 years ago when Meghan Markle wore our black point out on a trip. And we got feedback internally from friends who are like, oh, hey, I finally bought a pair of Rothy's. And it's like, oh, why? It's like, oh, Meghan Markle wore them. I'm like, that was the thing that tipped it. So all of these different touch points and how we can kind of help reinforce our story and show the story, the honesty, sort of like just the realness of the brand helps kind of get that person over to give us a try.
Mm-hmm. Great. Sai, let's talk, we talk a lot about sort of finding your tribe as this goes on, and, we talk again about going through personas and all those things. But as a number of questions coming in, when you're working with clients out there, what sort of process do you go through to help them define who their tribe is, right? Who their segment, obviously, was, as Matt was describing for Rothy's, like teachers was a perfect segment for them. Obviously, in today's day and age, we all understand sort of the medical worker area, but I would guess, different brands have different key segments there. So what do you use that you sort of, and what sort of best practices might you recommend to sort of identify and then work with that tribe?
Yeah, so most brands have a really good understanding from a demographics perspective who their core target audience is. As I was telling earlier, if let's take the case of Target, right? Target, this is one example of it. Target has always been strong with women in a particular demographic area range, and what they did a year or 2 years ago was, hey, that aligns very well with the teachers. We want to do something special for teachers. So for back to school, and teachers actually spend their own money to purchase for school supplies. It's kind of a sad situation, even though they're not paid well. On top of it, they're spending using their own money. So Target said, we want to appreciate teachers, and we want to give, it was 10% off, by the way. It was not a huge, 10% off to teachers for school supplies. The reason it went viral, it got picked up in some press, I think USA Today, but more importantly, we had stories of teachers printing it out, that offer, and posting it in their lunch rooms for other teachers to see. So the key is to figure out what's your core audience, and then what consumer tribes exist that map to that audience well. So it differs from brand to brand to brand. And the question then is, the reason it goes viral, or you can never plan for virality. It goes, the word of mouth is, it has to come across as authentic, and it has to be compelling, the offer. So authentic, in the case of Rothy, you get a great example of how they've always been for sustainability and things like that. So you have to tie it to your brand promise and the target audience, and the offer has to be compelling. Those mix of those things helps you get a successful campaign going.
Mm-hmm. And so, look, you talked a lot about verification as well, Sai, that you have to have a group that you can target and ultimately verify. Can you talk a little bit about the verification step and the importance that way, and what brands look for in verification?
So the reality is in our society, using some code to get a discount. For example, people have done this in the past where you use a student email from 20 years ago to get a student discount. It's not considered fraud. It's considered a white lie. But that's a challenge for brands. And from a brand perspective, you want to target a specific demographic, really compelling offer without brand dilution or cannibalization. So therefore, you need some ability to fence that offer, and that's why verification becomes key. But the key with verification is you got to figure out how to minimize friction. Imagine a consumer has come to your website or app. The last thing you need to do is add more friction or take them away from your site. So it's really important, whatever verification you do, it's as minimal as possible and reduces the amount of friction. It's completely in your brand experience. And the second piece of it to think through is whether that consumer purchases or not, you want to own that data, because a person might have verified but got pulled into something else, and they may not buy it today, but they may buy it 2 weeks from now. But you want to own the data they have willingly given to you so that you can add them to your nurture campaign going forward and have a much more richer engagement with them.
Got it. Matt, a question came in, and I thought this one was sort of interesting. You identified teachers as a key market segment. Obviously, through March, that was a very key target. After March, teachers might have still been a good segment for you, but schools were closed, learning started to occur remotely. So as you sort of kept your community there, and as you had this strong community, did you ultimately keep them engaged as their world sort of got upended during COVID?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we did as sort of we adjusted approaches kind of when COVID came, and everybody adjusting to sort of remote at home video calls. We looked at how we could still stay connected, and so we did amp up what we did from an email standpoint. We did increase some of some of our organic kind of posts, but not just, all right, we're just going to send more email trying to get them to buy. We actually shifted the messaging and tried to do a little bit more, relating to the issues, tried to figure out, how can we just sort of be a friend, keep that connection and stay engaged, knowing that, that purchase might not happen right now. So it was less of and I think that's the one thing, it's like we weren't all right, what do we need to do to drive sales, to just figure out a way to get her to buy. It was more like, let's, know we're all going through this, and just work to stay in touch. We did keep pretty much our standard, or our plan for product releases. We had additional things with bags that came out. We launched our flip-flop. We launched a new line of sandals. So we continued to say, we have this newness, we have this product. There's a sustainability component of it as well, because we already produced it. But let's get it out to her. Let's be thoughtful of how we did it and see how it can relate to that group. And it wasn't just the teacher segment, and it was all the people that we brought in with our promotion that we ran to kind of the medical field, and how do we bring them onto the brand and kind of create that connection, knowing that one of the big elements that's lacking for all of us right now is that one-on-one individual personal touch. I can't see my friends. All these calls that we have, you're seeing, chest up, you don't see what's on their feet. You don't know what they're wearing. And so some of this visual elements that we had was lacking, but we still wanted to kind of maintain that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So question on Rothy's, and, as you talk about sort of, your communities, and I guess this is sort of the classic chicken and egg situation, which is, in a situation where you've built these really strong communities around the attributes of your product, and that's something that a lot of these sort of emerging direct-to-consumer brands do. So which sort of ultimately starts first? Do you sort of go out and try to create communities, or do the users sort of ultimately identify organically and these communities start to get created?
I think it's the latter. I mean, it's great to be able to figure out ways to create a community, but really what it is just is identifying people who have a connection with your brand, who have connection with other people that are part of that brand, and looking for ways that we can foster that. There's groups out there on Facebook and these various communities that we just know they exist, but we're not active in it. We don't try to promote our agenda. We don't try to push anything to that. We use it as a way to listen and just understand how what our customer wants, what they care about, what do they not like that we're doing, what do they wish that we were doing. And so it's more like letting those things happen naturally, but then using the right tools to be able to kind of tap into that and use it really as a way to create a dialogue of like, hey, we're here, we really care about what you're saying, we love that you love Rothy's, let us know how we can help and just do things. We've done meetups. We've expanded into retail in the last year and a half, and we've done things at our stores. We've done things where we've met with groups when, like, say somebody's out at a conference and like, okay, great, let's get 50 Rothy's fans together and just sit down and chat. So those are some of the little things that our brand team has done to kind of help build that community.
Great. All right. Gentlemen, I see we are fast approaching sort of the end of our time here. So I wanted to take a second here and thank you both for taking the time to answer questions. I just want to alert our audience if we didn't get to your question and there were a number that came in we didn't have a chance to get to, I will make sure they get forwarded over to our sponsor, so there is the opportunity for someone to respond to you offline. So again, I just want to take a moment here, just some final reminders. If you do want the slides from today's presentation, you'll find them right now, event resources, top of the screen. We're also going to send you a link to the on-demand version. So again, keep an eye out for that about 3:30 Eastern time today. You'll get that link. Share it with your colleagues. Finally, adweek.com/webinars, our webinar calendar. See what we've got coming up. Sign up for an upcoming webinar. We'd love to have you. Check out the full archive of on-demand webinars as well. We hope you learned a lot today, and we hope you'll learn more from the rest of our Adweek webinars. So again, I want to thank our speakers. I want to thank our audience for taking time out of your busy day, and we look forward to seeing everyone at an upcoming Adweek webinar.